Okay, let's just get right into it. We're diving into the raw, aggressive, and honestly, totally groundbreaking world of Korn. These were the 5 guys from Bakersfield who didn't just bend the rules of heavy music in the 90s, they literally took a sledgehammer to them and built something brand new from the pieces.
You know that sound, right? That unforgettable, scatting breakdown. That wasn't just some weird vocal thing he was doing. No way. That was the sound of a revolution kicking down the door. See, this was a time when rock was kind of lost, searching for what was next. And then this strange, percussive noise comes along, and it was a sign that a band was here to change absolutely everything. So to really get Korn, you gotta put yourself back in the mid-90s. Grunge had just swept through, right? And it basically made all that big hair, theatrical 80s metal feel, well, kind of silly and outdated. Traditional metal was really struggling for relevance, and the whole scene was just dying for something that felt real, something raw, and something totally new. And that's where nu metal comes in. And Korn, they're pretty much seen as the godfathers of the whole thing. See, it wasn't just metal. It was this crazy fusion, like a musical Frankenstein. They were grabbing the grooves from hip-hop and funk, the raw emotion of grunge, the heavy, dark vibes of industrial music, and they smashed it all together to create this hybrid sound that was just theirs. And you have to understand, this was a huge departure. I mean, think about traditional metal. It was all about those screaming guitar solos and high melodic vocals. Well, Korn just completely flipped the script. They used these 7-string guitars and tuned them way, way down to get this super heavy, sludgy sound. The focus wasn't on solos. It was on these deep, funky, off-kilter grooves. Even the vocals were used more like another rhythm instrument. So how did they do it? How did they actually build this sound from the ground up? Let's break it down, piece by piece, because it really was a perfect storm, wasn't it? You had these 5 guys, and every single one of them was bringing something totally weird and unconventional to the mix. Okay, first up, the guitars. This was a massive piece of the puzzle. The guitarists, Munky and Head, they weren't trying to write your typical metal riffs. Instead, they had this arsenal of effects pedals, and they were using them to make these wild, out-there noises. We're talking sounds like sirens, DJ scratches, these really jarring textures. It honestly sounded less like a guitar and more like something a hip-hop DJ would sample. And holding it all down, or maybe driving it all forward, was Fieldy's bass. Now, he wasn't just back there plucking away at root notes. No way. The bass was practically a lead instrument. He had this signature percussive slap thing he did, which came straight from funk and hip-hop. And it created this insane, heavy, bouncy groove that was the absolute heart of their songs. It's what made you want to move. And of course, there was Jonathan Davis. Man, his vocals were just all over the place, in the best way possible. One second he's whispering, the next he's screaming his guts out, and then he's doing this rhythmic, almost rap-like delivery. And get this, he'd even bust out the bagpipes, something he learned in high school. It added this totally bizarre, haunting, ancient vibe to their super modern sound. His lyrics were so personal and unflinchingly raw, and that's what connected with a whole generation of kids who felt like they didn't fit in.
So you take all those weird, amazing ingredients, you throw them in a blender, and what you get is their incredible self-titled debut from 1994. This record was basically the blueprint for the entire nu metal genre. It was just pure, raw, chaotic energy, and they really wanted to capture how intense their live shows were on tape. And if you want to know just how raw this album is, you just have to listen to the final track, Daddy. At the end of the song, Jonathan Davis has a complete and total emotional breakdown right there in the vocal booth. And the producer, Ross Robinson, he just kept the tapes rolling. He captured everything. It is so hard to listen to. It's uncomfortable, it's intense, and it's probably one of the most brutally honest moments ever put on a record. But here's the thing. This album, as game-changing as it was not an overnight success. Not even close. I mean, look at this. It came out in '94 and only got to number 72 on the charts. So Korn had to build their audience the hard way. They just toured and toured and toured. It took 2 full years for the album to even go gold. It was all word of mouth, people seeing their crazy live shows, and that's what slowly but surely turned this thing into a multi-platinum monster. But you know, Korn's whole thing wasn't just about the music. A huge part of their success was their identity. They built this whole brand, this whole vibe that made their fans feel like part of a tribe, and they were absolute masters at it. A perfect example? The logo. The story behind it is actually hilarious. Apparently, their manager hated the name Korn, so the band told him, "Fine, if we can't be Korn, we'll be named Larry." Can you imagine? Anyway, they needed the logo for a flyer one night, so Jonathan just grabbed a crayon,
used his left hand to make it look messy, and scrawled out the name with that backward R. And just like that, this creepy, childlike drawing became one of the most iconic logos in rock history.
Okay, so they've got the sound, they've got the logo, they've got this massive, devoted following. The fuse was lit. All they needed was that one big moment to make them explode into the mainstream. And that moment came in 1998. The album was Follow the Leader. And the song? Well, the song was Freak on a Leash. And their record label, man, they went all in on this one. $800,000 for a music video. That's a ton of money for anyone back then. But for a super heavy band like Korn, it was absolutely insane. A massive, massive gamble, but boy did it pay off.
This video wasn't just a video, it was a full-on cultural event. You had animation from Todd McFarlane, the guy who created Spawn. You had these mind-blowing bullet time effects before The Matrix made it famous. It just dominated MTV. It was on TRL constantly, for months, until they had to retire it. It won Grammys, it won VMAs. Freak on a Leash is what made Korn a household name, period.
But their impact was so much bigger than just one video, right? Their whole story is fascinating. So let's dig into some of the cool trivia and behind-the-scenes stuff that really shows how this one-of-a-kind band got put together.
It's pretty wild how it all came together. Did you know most of the band was already in a funk rock group called L.A.P.D. before Korn even existed? When they found Jonathan, he was so different from what they were doing that he didn't even want to join at first. They had to beg him. He actually went to a psychic who told him he'd be an idiot to pass it up. Crazy, right? And his old job? He was a mortuary assistant. You can totally see how that dark experience seeped into his lyrics. And even their look, it was this weird mix of metal and hip-hop, and the fans loved it. Suddenly, everyone was wearing Adidas tracksuits. It became the new metal uniform.
So in the end, look, you can love new metal or you can hate it, but you just can't deny the impact Korn had. They didn't just write songs. They created a whole sound, a whole look, and they gave a voice to millions of kids who felt like they didn't have one. Their story, from being these total outcasts in Bakersfield to becoming global rock stars, it just proves what can happen when you decide to break every single rule and make something that's truly 100% alternative.